3 weeks into the NFL regular season, the New Orleans Saints, unarguably one of the worst teams in the NFL, travel to Buffalo to play the Bills, arguably the best team in the NFL. Second week in a row, the Saints face a Herculean task. Are they headed for disaster? Do they even have a shot to pull anything off there in Buffalo? Well, let's break it on down. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. Before you can break down a game that's going to be played on Sunday, we and it's getting to be the broken record, I know, but it's the self-inflicted problems, excuse me, that keep coming around and haunting the Saints. One of the things I noticed during the week where the Saints were tied for first in total penalties with the Tennessee Titans. 31 accepted penalties. And that's not counting five more that weren't assessed due to either offsetting or declined. And in those 31 league leading accepted penalties against the Saints, you were assessed a total of 211 penalty yards. Of those 31, 15 of them were pre-snap penalties, 48%. That's second in the NFL. During that time, what they call beneficiary penalties and yardage, which are basically the total flags assessed against your opponents. Well, our three opponents had 22 penalties against them for 164 yards of penalty. So you had a negative, net negative. Repeat that, 47 yards. It's equivalent of about 5 first downs, just shy of that, of giving up an additional 5 first downs on defense or making your down and distance 5 times longer than it needed to be on offense. However, it breaks down. When you go back and look at the fact that you had 31 and 15, almost half are pre-snap penalties. Let's just say you eliminate 9 of them off those numbers. So then you're at the 22, same number your opponents were flagged for. Assuming 5 yards a pop gets fully assessed, 45 yards, you're at a -2. Basically, you're dead even. You're not giving up anything extra on a team that cannot afford to give up anything extra when the majority of it is based on you, not anything the opposing team is doing. You take it to the next self-inflicted problem. Look, just the mental errors that keep compounding week after week that eliminate so many chances you have to survive a game in the first two, maybe even pulling out a victory. And in Seattle, basically never even giving you a chance for victory. Game was over halfway through the first quarter. And I may even be generous saying halfway through the first quarter. So, I mean, in all three of these games, whether you're watching them live, you're looking at gradings like PFF, film gradings, or trying to find advanced metrics or whatever, there you keep finding the same stuff appearing in all three games. Missed blocking assignments. And I'm not talking about, and we'll get to this in a second, physically getting beat. I mean, missing, whiffing, stepping the wrong direction, letting someone just get right by you before you can even get a hand on them, letting go of a block too soon. All stuff that's appeared. And it's not always the same player. It's not always at the same time. But the net cumulative effect is you just keep breaking down plays. Same thing with missed defensive assignments, like blowing coverages. Sometimes you look at film and you're like, and in what we're trying to do, pre-snap show one thing, do something else post-snap, and plus the pattern match where we're trying to pick up the pattern that the pass catchers are coming out on to be able to defend it. Sometimes I think it's quite evident that we have some guys playing, say, cover 2 and some playing cover 3 or whatever. Not a lot. but it's getting exploited just about every time with this zone scheme, more zone based scheme that we have, every time we vacate a spot in one of the zones, we give up yards. They seem to just find it, and we just can't recover. Same thing along as long the run defense has been a lot better this year and is probably one of the few things we do halfway decently, consistently. But even then, you can see, and even as well as we played the run in Seattle, you could see it pop up where you start losing some gap integrity. You're creating the space for them to run through. They're not creating it by pushing you around and making the hole or the if it's gap or just creating the space and movement because of in a zone base. One of the things that happened in Seattle was both our linebackers played really, really well against the run, so covered some of that stuff up. But if they get hung up in the wash or they're a little late showing up, we'd have seen some explosive runs like we saw in the first two games. A lot of times that's why we gave up the explosive runs. Missed opportunities in space for the offense. Basically getting our playmakers in space with the ball. Some of it does go back to the blocking, no doubt about it, but some of it doesn't. You know, you wide receivers not getting open. Sometimes I swear it's either they're running a wrong route or, and this is not knowing fully the playbook or fully the intent of what Kellen Moore's trying to do. It's hard to figure out if there was a miscommunication on the play or, receivers giving in the receivers and the quarterbacks the leeway to read the coverage and find where they need it to go. I don't know because it's sometimes I can watch where it's pretty obvious zone and one of our pass catchers gets into the clear spot where just stop, you're open, turn around, let Rattler get you the ball. Or if it's in a position where you can look for the ball and be prepared to catch it while running to try to get some yak while you're in that open space and just missing that opportunity. Now, some of that's on Rattler because they are doing the correct thing, and either he's not seeing it to get him the ball, or he's just not trusting himself to get him the ball and sometimes taking what looks like safer throws. In any case, the line we're trying to walk with this team to try to win games as we're doing a rebuild, when those opportunities present itself, we've absolutely got to take advantage of them because quite honestly, and I said this before in the last video, we're not good enough to keep creating multiple chances at those opportunities for ourselves. And when they're there, we have to take advantage. And I'm going to look at the running backs that they're doing a great job yards after contact to make up for some of the mistakes of the offensive line. There's no doubt about it. Some of it's on them where wasn't the greatest amount of blocking in the world, but you had a little sliver to cut or get your shoulder down and get through and actually gain yards in either missing the hole, missing the cut, try to bounce it outside, get into more trouble. Some of our negative runs, that's kind of what it is. Going, man, I would rather you take the two right there than bounce it outside and lose two. Some of that stuff needs to look kind of go away. That's all stuff you can control while the play's going on. It's not really on what the defense or the other team or the other team's offense is doing. You got to pick up on that and get better at it because the combination of these penalties and these mental mistakes, plus a combination of physical mistakes. Now, sometimes physical mistakes happen. I'm willing to concede that football is in essence, a bunch of one-on-one battles that go on every play all over the field. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes it's a stalemate. You can't lose more than you win on consistently. Otherwise, you get the results you have. And you're already making it worse with the penalties and the mental mistakes. And now, even physically, If you can beat the guy in front of you 4 out of 10, but you're eliminating all that other stuff, it's better. It's still an overall loss, but you're closer to getting something accomplished. 4 out of 10 while you're constantly putting yourself in the hole. Hell, 10 out of 10 while you're constantly putting yourself in the hole is going to be tough enough and almost impossible that you're going to roll out on an NFL Sunday and beat the guy across from you every single time. As bad as we're playing at times, the other teams don't beat all of our guys every single play. Just saying. So I mean, you're looking at a missed tackle issue that keeps showing up. Talking about losing 1v1s, both the offense and defensive line are going through these phases where they're just physically getting pushed around by the person in front of them, the player in front of them, and creating the problems. So when you're committing penalties or missing assignments to throw on top of that, this keeps getting harder and harder. And those self-inflicted just going to keep causing more problem than the actual physical mistakes. I think part of it is our defenders not being able to get physical enough. I'm talking about in the passing game, but not being able to get physical enough to close some of those spaces down that in windows that balls are getting through to. And we're giving up yardage on. And the flip side of that is true for our pass catchers outside of Jawan Johnson, who his separation on tough coverage where they're putting tight coverage on you. That separation percentage, he's the only one that can consistently stay north of 50%. Sometimes that's a pushing and shoving match going on downfield. So far, it seems like the NFL is letting it go. We've seen it in the 3 games we played. You watch on Sundays, most referee crews seem to be, as long as it's not completely egregious, a takedown or an obvious shirt grab or stuff like that. But the hand fighting, the arms getting caught up in each other, we've seen a few of those. They're letting it ride. And so in the passing game, whether it's our defenders or our catchers, got to be more physical out there. Defenders got to prevent that separation and win some 1v1s. Offense players have got to do it to get some 1v1s. Is when you roll all these together, your self-inflicted wounds plus, and some of those 1v1s are self-inflicted, don't get me wrong, but not all of them. But the combination of everything, look, it's going to kill offensive drives and it's going to prevent the defense from getting off the field. Bottom line, and we've seen all 3 games, every single quarter of said games, we've seen that pop up. And now you're just really putting yourself that the most talented teams in the NFL consistently do the stuff that we've done for 3 games. They're not going to be anywhere near their full potential. They will be, even if they're talented enough to win games, be in a dogfight every single week. And right now, we're not the big dog, so we have to do as much as we can that we control to stay out of it. So the numbers really don't lie on killing drives and preventing the defense to get off the field. We'll break them down a little in a little bit and a little more in depth. But I can tell you right now that when it comes to scoring offense and defense, red zone offense and defense, and third down offense and defense, the Saints literally total of 3 key categories, offense and defense for both. 6 areas where the Saints are 20th or worse in the NFL. Self-inflicted wounds probably get you to 15 by themselves. And then the physical errors, even the ones you can't avoid, probably push you back in, sitting in the bottom third, and in some cases, the bottom 5 overall in the NFL. Makes it hard to win close games at home and makes it almost impossible to beat good teams on the road. So taking a look at team matchups, let's start with Buffalo offense under Joe Brady, who I think we had a flirtation with possibly to hire as head coach. He's going into his second full year as offensive coordinator for Buffalo. Here's the interesting thing. Last year was he interim gig became full time gig. He had taken over for Ken Dorsey previously, but in 2024 they were 57.3% pass called pass plays, 42.7% design run plays. That 42.7 represented the lowest design run plays in Josh Allen's career. Worked out well for him. They had a really good offense, and Josh Allen was MVP caliber type guy that he is every year, but an even better version of it. This year, so far in 2025, they're really balanced now. 51% pass, 49% run, 257 yards per game through the air, 163 on the ground. You compare that to the Saints in 2025. We are 61.7% pass, 38.3% run, 199.7 through the air per game, 102.3 on the ground per game. So through 3 games, Bills offense, number one in the NFL, 420 yards per game, while the Saints are lagging back there at number 20 at 302 yards per game. One of the things that I look at in next gen stats, they have some sometimes interesting only, but sometimes some interesting and hey, this may mean something stat. One of them is their rushing success percentage, which is percentage of rushing plays, design rushing plays. They keep the offense on schedule with down and distance. So, you know, 1st and 10 becomes 2nd and 5, 2nd and 5 becomes 3rd and 1, and you have a much easier conversion rate or a possible easier conversion rate. The Bills are second in the NFL currently after 3 games at 49.5%. So roughly half their plays are going to continuously keep them ahead of schedule. Saints, not too bad at 13th at 44.3, but still, and this goes back to the first segment, you clean up some of that stuff that you could clean up and get closer to that Buffalo number. Start making your life more easy. So on the Buffalo end, you can expect heavy design run calls with James Cook, a really talented running back, and as good as anybody in the NFL right now. He's playing really, really well, which is going to help set up Allen's use of RPOs, bootlegs, and play action, and where he can really take some deep shots off that play action. That's 3 things his game is really, really good at. Brady also seems to be mixing in some more and more of the eye candy motion, as I call it, in offenses. You know, stuff that we're using in our offense. I think most modern NFL offenses are to make things a little easier for Allen to operate in that offense. Even when things start going badly for him, then you got to worry about Josh Allen's scramble ability and ability to throw really off platform throws that hit guys down the field and that can make plays. You have a handful to deal with on defense at every level. And then when you start looking at the pass catchers, this is a team where you can't go, hey, there's the number one guy. We need to shut him down. No, no, no. Get 3 receivers, Coleman, Shakir, and Palmer, plus Kincaid, their tight end. Look, all 4 of those guys they're basically almost interchangeable when you look at their numbers. All of them over 100 yards. All of them have 11 or more targets. I think Coleman has the most at 18. The touchdowns, 3 between the 4 of them, basically, or 4 between the 4 of them. Look, there isn't one guy you can hone in on. They're going to spread the ball around, and whether it's a situation where, okay, one guy's constantly open and he's going to get the ball, or we're just going to spread it around and force you to try to cover everybody, and eventually you'll end up not covering whoever, and we'll make sure whoever that is gets the ball. With that equal distribution, you still have to worry about some of their backups, because this is a deep, deep and talented roster. Cook is going to be able to catch balls and does out the backfield. He's dangerous, but they can throw in Elijah Moore receiver. He's grabbed a few of in very athletic and explosive player. He's grabbed a few. Dawson Knox, the second tight end, when he's out there, look, it's not a huge step down from Kincaid about what he can do with the ball in his hand. And even their rookie tight end, who's Jackson Hawes, universally, everybody said that's the best blocking tight end in the draft. And he's managed to catch 3 balls for 39 yards and a touchdown. So they're going to force you to defend everybody, knowing full well you can't. And then we're going to find the one that you can't defend. So Buffalo, balanced offense, number one in the NFL, 420 yards, while the Saints are bringing basically right now, a pass-heavy offense, almost 2-1, and overall 20th in the NFL. That's not a good combination if those numbers keep holding on Sunday. You get into the Buffalo defense. Okay. Little background here. Sean McDermott, longtime NFL defensive coordinator from 2009 to 2016 with the Eagles first and then the Panthers. Was hired by Buffalo to be their head coach in 2017. Bobby Babich, the longtime understudy for him because he's worked Carolina and he brought Babich over from Carolina into Buffalo. And Babich has worked his way up through the defensive ranks. And in 2024, he was named defense coordinator. And not name only, he's also the play caller on the defense. So the point being is there's enough out there to know exactly what you're getting with a Sean McDermott / Bobby Babich defense. You're getting a 3-4 base defense, but it's going to use multiple fronts. Does that sound familiar? They believe in SFP, simple, fast, physical for that defense. Does that sound familiar? You know, now they're likely, here's where this new style of offense that's being developed, and he's one of the guys that runs it really, really well that we're trying, and we've basically faced 3 versions of it already this year. But he seems to be inclined maybe to play a little more man than as opposed to zone. So there's a wrinkle, but he's still going to use multiple zone looks. They're still going to try to show you one thing and pre-snap and do something else, whether it's they're messing with their coverages, simulated pressure. Does that sound familiar from a week ago? So they're playing very fast, very physical to rally up and make tackles. Does that sound familiar? It's almost a carbon copy of a better team that we played last Sunday. You look at their linebackers and their secondary on defense, that's some good football players back there. And they do have depth behind these guys. But you're going to be looking at Bishop and Rapp, their 2 top safeties. They're going to be running around making plays. In fact, I think Bishop actually leads their team in tackles. Cornerbacks, White, Benford, Johnson, 3 really good ones. Linebackers, Bernard and Williams, they're 2 primary guys right now, depending on what happens with Matt Milano. But if Milano plays, he's really, really good when he's healthy. So we'll see later today when the injury report comes out what his status is. But they're really good on that back end getting off the line. The line is kind of veteran heavy. Bosa, Oliver, Jones. It's all guys been in the league several years, all really good football players, but maybe on the backside, not unlike our defensive line somewhat. So it kind of leads to this weird dynamic when you're talking about the Bills defense, at least to me. Now they did draft some young. They do have some young guys waiting in the wings and see if any of those guys really establish themselves. But overall, they have the 9th best defense in the NFL. They give up 287 total yards a game. They're number 2 in pass defense, only 131 yards per game. They're dead last in run. Number 32 in the NFL. They give up 156 per game. Compare that to the Saints defense. We're 15th overall, which, going into the season, I just said if we could roll the whole season at 15, we're going to win some football games. Well, so far, not really playing out. But 15th overall, we give up 313 a game, which is hopefully going to hold up a little bit compared to their 420 their offense puts up a game. But we're 18th against the pass at 210s per yard and 14th against the run at 103. So there's one place where we could possibly get an advantage. Speaking of the injury report that's going to come out later today, if we do absolutely have our projected starting five offensive linemen actually fully healthy and ready to play in this game, that may make a difference. Hopefully, going to have to run the ball. And we'll talk about it a little later in the wrap up. But clearly, we have to run the ball in this on Sunday. Because here's where the scary, kind of the three stats that I mentioned earlier in the first segment. When you look at scoring, Saints defense is 30 points per game average. Bills offense averages scoring 34 points a game. Our offense averages scoring 15.7 points a game. Their defense averages giving up 23.7 points a game. In the red zone, Saints defense teams convert on us at an 80% clip. The Bills offense converts at a 66.7% clip. Our offense converts at a 50% clip. Their defense keeps the other teams off the scoreboard 71.4%. Rough. Third down conversions, Saints defense 45.9% allowed. Bills pick up 45%. Our offense converts 35%. Bills allow 43.2%. A lot of these numbers are going our way, and these are scoring points. And the way you got to do it is you score touchdowns in the red zone, and you have to convert on third down. And then you got to prevent the other side from doing all that stuff. This is the one I'm saying key stats for the Saints earlier, where we're 20th or last in the NFL. Our scoring defense is 25th worst. Our scoring offense is 29th worst. Our red zone defense is 29th worst. Our red zone offense is 20th worst. And that's the best one of these categories because we're 27th overall third down defense, 26 overall on converting on third down on offense. So remember I said 20th lower in the NFL in some key categories? There they are. Look, that's going to lead to big problems ahead in Buffalo if you can't flip some of these numbers around in there. Got to score touchdowns in the red zone. Got to hold them to field goals every time they get down there because at 420 a game, average and yardage, they're going to be getting close a lot. You got to stay on the field on third down on offense. You got to get off the field on third down on defense. That's stuff that'll hopefully make up that scoring difference. That's it. It's going to be a difficult task, but that's what you have to do. If you don't, and I'll optimistically say give yourself a chance to win. But right now, I'm focusing on cleaning that stuff up so you just don't go through another week where the game's going to be over somewhere in the first quarter. Those numbers hold. Strong possibility that's what's going to happen. So we'll take a quick look at the injury report. And no surprise, they haven't practiced all week. They basically haven't practiced for weeks, but Radens and Young will be unavailable. Everybody else's designation is looking good except Devon Villay. He's still questionable with the hip injury. And to me, talking about the physicality, trying to get some separation, trying to get open, bigger receiver, we really need him to get him fully healthy and back out on the field. Good news is it looks like we'll finally have our quote unquote starting offensive line healthy and on the field together for the first time for the season. Bills, a couple interesting names. Milano and Oliver both out, two really good defensive players, won't make the game. Spencer Brown, their right tackle, and AJ Espinosa, one of their edge players, both listed as questionable. Getting limited practices in on both of them, so that could be something to keep an eye on, especially Brown if they lose one of their offensive linemen. And we'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. Wrap it up with look, statistically, talent wise, up and down their roster and our roster, just many different ways you want to look at it as possible. We are huge underdogs in this game. We would be at home. We definitely are on the road. The one thing that we can do to mitigate it and hopefully spring off of that and try to get better is not only, just fix the stuff we need to fix, but dedicate ourselves to the running game and see if you can get anywhere near that average that they're giving up. So I think 160, 170 yards rushing accomplishes two things. Gives you a good ability to work off of play action and maybe get a little bit of a passing game going against a very good pass defense. But more importantly, you putting their best weapon, Josh Allen, on the bench because he is scary for against us, a defense like ours right now, where he's out on the field for a good portion of the time. I just feel like there's no way you're going to keep them out the end zone. Time of possession would be huge. Best way to do it is the running game and being able to score touchdowns, especially in the red zone. Can't settle for field goals. Again, the running game would be key to that. Some play action, our own RPOs, some design runs with Rattler, which we hardly did any of last week in Seattle. I think all that stuff needs to be in there on Sunday to even remotely thinking about having a chance of pulling this game out. As far as the red zone and scoring touchdowns there instead of trying to settle for play groupie attempted field goals, part of me, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but part of me even wants to just say before the game, tell those guys we're not kicking field goals in the red zone. Red zone is 4 down territory. We need to get the ball in the end zone. And so when you watch Groupie warming up on the sideline, it's not to go out and kick a field goal. It's to go ahead and make the extra points after you put it in the end zone. Is as insane as it sounds, it seems like that's just desperation point we're at. You guys have got to play better and quit making mistakes. And when you present the opportunity, especially on these opening drives we get where we get down the field some and gain some yards, but can't close it out with a touchdown Sunday, look, that almost has to be a given. And anything short of that, I'm thinking it's going to be a long day. But honestly, give a prediction. I think it's going to be a long way anyway. I think this is definitely the makings of a two-score game. It's more if we can run the ball and score touchdowns in the red zone, we may be able to mitigate that. But I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that at all. So I'm just going to throw up the prediction of Bills 35, Saints 16. We come back home 0-4 and needing to figure out a lot of stuff and a lot of answers going into the Giants game. So you let me know down in the comments. Give me the prediction, give me the score. Let me know how you think this one's going to turn out. But short of that, the fact that they don't play the run well, it just seems like pretty much everything else they do better than we can do it. And they get to do it at home while we're on the road. So first time here, you like what you saw, please hit the like, share, subscribe. Like I said, in the comments, let me know your predictions and thoughts on the game. We'll go through them. We'll talk about it next week. Soon the game's over. Monday, Tuesday, we're going to do some film review, talk about this game. I'm not necessarily looking forward to it, but hey, if there's one thing I've learned, the dang Saints can just surprise the heck out of you. Most of the time, not good, but sometimes very good. Maybe with a little luck and a little perseverance, this can be one of those times where we get a surprise outcome on Sunday. So, till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out in Houdat.